Years old, former sharecropper. Her last word were, "Do not let them take our vote away from us." She had fought and seen people harmed, beaten, trying to vote. Talk about an inalienable right. Voting is crucial. And I don't give a damn how you look at it. There are efforts to stop people from voting. That's not right.
Oh, oops. How are we live already? Okay, here we go. Looks like we're live. I wasn't intending to be live quite yet, so here we go. Here we go. Looks like we're going. Somehow I hit the wrong button. So, anyways, glad you're here. Let's take a look at things and move forward. So, what do we got this week? It's hot here. It is so hot. Seems like it's always Saturday where this seems to hit. I actually ordered room air conditioner, one of those window air conditioners. Won't be here by next Saturday, but soon should be getting here, and then it won't be so crazy hot in this room when I'm trying to get work done. So anyways, let's see what we got today. It's one reason I got the lights off, just trying to keep the heat down any way I can, and then you don't have to see me quite so hot in here. Okay, so starting off the bat. So this week we got a lot going on. Okay, there's plenty going on, and a lot of it's about the post office. We're just going to be talking about the post office. They're going to keep coming up, these stories on the post office. It's kind of a big story. Now, the post office is not like a super interesting thing to talk about. People don't want to talk about the post office for hours and hours. But it may be the thing that defines our democracy going forward or not, depending on whether people are going to be able to vote. Depending on whether they can mail in their ballots or not. So it's kind of a big deal, and we definitely need to figure out. Oops, let me close that. Definitely need to figure out how to get this taken care of so that people can send in their ballots. And as people noted on some videos that I put out this week, people have noted there's other reasons besides voting why the post office is super important. And of course, that's absolutely true. Even in areas where you're looking at, rural areas, people rely on that to get their packages. And even if you're in the city, people who have lost some mobility, little bit older, they rely on the post office to get them their medications, to get them all that kind of stuff. It's super important. Thanks, Jesus. I'm digging that logo as well. Thanks for that. Okay, let's dive into it. Let's dive into things here. All right, so what do we got? GOP asked Supreme Court to make it harder to vote during the pandemic. Now, of course, that's written, with a sort of a political slant in mind, but that's essentially what's going on. So there's actually a number of lawsuits going on around the country that are aimed at state voting. So basically to make state voting harder. So what we're going through right now is that most states are saying, we're not going to be able to conduct voting business as usual. We can't just sit back and say, yep, we're just going to vote like we always did, because we can't even have people going to work, right, in a lot of cases. So we're going to have to make changes to how people vote. Well, that's what states are working through right now. And they're constantly being attacked by the GOP saying, hey, you're trying to make last minute changes. Well, it's not exactly last minute. Months and months ahead of time, people are trying to make changes to make sure they can change the voting system to work properly so people can vote. This isn't last minute. Now, the GOP lawsuits may make some of these changes be last minute. And it came out. There was an article. I can't remember which agency it was, but there was a report came out last week. Many of these lawsuits are being funded directly by billionaires. So the billionaires at this point don't even have to give the money to Trump, and then Trump decides to fight these lawsuits. The billionaires are just doing it on their own. And there was a big list of lawsuits going on around the country that are billionaire funded. These billionaires often giving $1, $2, $300,000 to get these lawsuits rolling and to slow things down and to try to keep these laws from changes. So one example is, I think it was Alabama and Rhode Island they've had to fight GOP lawsuits because basically in past years, what would happen if you wanted to mail in vote in those states, you had to have either 2 witnesses or you had to have a notary. Okay, well, both of those are kind of challenging. Getting a hold of a notary, you have to make an appointment. They come out, do all that thing. That doesn't make sense that tens to hundreds of thousands of people are going to be using a notary in order to vote, right? That's not going to happen. And the 2 witness thing is hard because we're all supposed to be social distancing. So how are you going to get 2 witnesses for everyone when we're all supposed to be staying away from each other? It makes no sense. So the state said, why don't we change it this time around? Why don't we make sure that people can mail in their votes just like we do in California, right? You fill out your ballot, you sign the back, right? You put your signature on there, you got to sign it and all that kind of stuff. You send it in. No real problems are coming up, right? Oregon the same way. Hawaii just had record voting in their mail-in ballots, and there has not been any reports of funny business coming up. And despite what you may have heard, if there is fraudulent voting happening by mail-in voting, you're likely going to see it, because if someone was taking large numbers of ballots and sending them in, like they were saying, well, what if China just printed a bunch of ballots and then sent them in? Well, then that city would be getting the actual ballot from some individuals and then the fake ballots coming from China, right? And if they're being sent from China, that's kind of obvious. Anyways, when you dig into it, it's actually very secure, the mail-in voting. So lawsuits going around the country, and the GOP doesn't want you voting, right? They just don't want you voting. All right, let's move ahead from here. What do we got? Good news here. Voting registration surged during the Black Lives Matter protest, study finds. So, and it actually just kind of put things back to normal, or a little bit above normal, because what happened was, people are registering to vote all the time. Like, it's an ongoing thing. Now, you have peaks in areas where there's an especially large interest, like around the primaries or right before a presidential election. You're going to see these big bumps. But there's always people registering at all times because they move, or they, something changes in their lives and they re-register to vote. Well, what happened in the first few months of this year, when the world was in total chaos and everyone was trying to figure out how to deal with this pandemic, there was a huge slowdown in people registering to vote. Okay, so the good news is, with all the Black Lives Matter stuff going on, people were very engaged politically. They were very interested in participating. And there were sometimes people were registering to vote at the protests, which is fantastic. So getting people involved, getting people registering, so that higher level of registration during the Black Lives Matter sort of offset the lower registration that we had during the early coronavirus issues, right? So at least we got back roughly to where we should be. I think you're going to see at least marginally more than usual registering going on from here on out, from now till November, because I think people are going to be quite engaged. People want to vote this time around. Some people really, really want to vote for Trump, but there's a lot of people who really, really want to vote against Trump, which kind of sums up our election that we're having. You're either, right, you don't even have to mention Biden at all. You're either pro-Trump or you're anti-Trump. Not even really about Biden all that much. So at least the good news is we're getting people registered to vote, right? And it could be that it's possible that Texas Latinos could swing state from red to blue in November election. That's what they're saying. It all comes down to the number of Latino voters that actually vote in Texas. If Latinos show up in mass, right, that state could actually go blue, which is amazing to me, because it's people have been predicting for some time that it was going to go blue, but they were predicting still a few years out from now. But could happen as soon as this election. So we'll have to see how that turns out. It'll be interesting. The experts are saying this is kind of the linchpin that's going to happen in Texas. Now, I think most people are still saying that the Republicans have the edge in Texas, but if people really got motivated, if people really showed up, it could potentially go blue. So we'll have to see what happens there. It's interesting. If Texas goes blue, it's going to be very difficult for Republicans to win that presidency and even a lot of down ballot stuff, right? I was just going to make a point, and then I forgot what I was going to say. Right, it'll occur to me. We'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, back on the post office. So here we go. Here's actually a picture of them going around and rounding up these drop boxes, right? So they were doing this in Montana, I believe. Oh, here they're doing it in Oregon. So there was a big movement they were doing this in Montana. This is a picture of it happening in Oregon. There were reports of it happening in Pennsylvania. But there was pretty big outrage right away. So hopefully it's a situation where at least there are some reports that they may be backing off this kind of a thing because it's obviously anti-American, right? This whole thing going on with the post office right now, if you've been following it, it's just about voting. That's all it's about, right? The GOP has been trying to break down the post office for years, but this full-on blitzkrieg on the blitz that they're doing on the post office right now is all about getting people to not be able to vote, to disenfranchise people from voting so that they can just take over. So it's, here people are taking pictures, posting it around. We need to make sure that the post office survives because without it, we likely will have difficulties in the democracy. And here the post office union came out, right? So came out with this. So all the things that aren't supposed to stop the post office, snow, rain, heat, night, fascism, right? They're going right for it. So this was credited to the post office union is what most people are crediting this to. So pretty interesting. They're just coming out and calling it out and saying, yep, it's pretty obvious what's going on here, right? There's no real well, maybe you're just putting a bad spin on it. This is what it's about, right? This is what's going on. Oh yeah, I already talked about this anyways. This was about Hawaii having record numbers. So this is relevant. This is Cenk Uygur. If I imagine most of you are familiar with Cenk Uygur, but if you're not, he's basically the person who started the Young Turks TYT network, huge progressive political network on YouTube, right? Very, very famous individual. He actually ran for office in Southern California, didn't make it, but he gave it a go. If the election were held today and you counted all of the votes in person and mail-in, Joe Biden would win 352 to 186. That's basically smashing the other side, right? So if you count all the votes, it's a landslide in the Electoral College. But if you only count in-person voting, Trump wins 306 to 232, right? Which is a fairly large margin as well, not as large as the other one. So that, I haven't actually gone through and fact check what Cenk is referring to here. But, Cenk's pretty credible. If he's saying this, he runs the Young Turks. I suspect it's probably true or that there's some credibility to it. So that gives you a stark understanding of why they're doing this to the post office. Why are they trying to break down the post office? This is why. Why is Trump so against the post office, trying to convince us not to mail in our ballots? This is why, right here, right? Biden wins in a landslide if you count mail-in ballots. Trump wins by a healthy margin if you don't count those ballots. So it's really important. We need to encourage people we know, help our family members, older family members, whatever we need to do so that those people get their ballots early enough, fill them out, get them sent in, and get them counted, because there are going to be slowdowns on Election Day, and it is going to be an absolute nightmare. right? It is going to be a disaster. So just get your stuff in early so that you can make sure that it gets counted. You know, sometimes all those ballots don't get counted. Those mail-in ones that are coming in towards the end, they don't always get to counting all of those. So, you know, get your stuff in as early as you can to make sure it's going to get counted there. All right, what do we got next? Oh, yeah, as if it wasn't bad enough, right? What do we got here? Mail sorting equipment being removed from post offices, leaving mail to pile up, says the union leader. So, you know, we've already seen, we just saw photos of them removing the drop boxes that you see around town where you can drop your stuff. Now they're going in. Now, right now, most postal workers are not allowed to work any overtime at all, right? Because they're supposedly cost cutting. What they're really doing is creating a backlog of mail that needs to be delivered. But they're saying that it's for cost cutting. Well, in this case, they apparently are allowing people to work overtime to remove the sorting equipment in numerous places. So like, you know, in big cities, you have like big sorting stuff going on where you gotta sort massive amounts of stuff. Have you ever seen it on video, on TV? I mean, the mail is going through these sorters at a rate that, you know, even a team of humans could not keep up with. That's why we have the sorting machines, is because it's faster and more efficient than humans. They're actually ripping these machines out. They're pulling them out of there. Now, why on earth would you do that? To slow down the mail. I mean, there's no like undercurrent here. There's no like, well, if we dig deeper, we'll get to the real truth. No, it's just right there. What it looks like is what it actually is. That's actually what's going on with this. So, yeah. So, you know, be aware. Make sure you vote in a way that is going to make sure that we have this democracy going. Get your vote in early. Not often. You just vote once, but do it early. Okay. All right. And then, you know, I guess I don't know. It's so hard. You keep trying to, you just think he can't be any less creative than he already is, and he finds ways. So fact check, Trump promotes another birther lie, this time about Kamala Harris. So it's basically the same story. It's the same thing he did with Obama, where he came out and said, well, we don't even know if Obama is born in this country, right? That whole nonsense. It's now the same thing with Kamala. He's coming out and saying, well, I'm not even sure she's qualified. So let's take a look at it.
Good evening. It was clear when Kamala Harris was named as the Democrats' vice presidential nominee that fringe elements would attack her based on her gender and her race. What is clear at this hour is that it's not going to just be fringe elements doing so, and perhaps that should not be a surprise. Today, President Trump, who pushed a baseless, disproven, and racist conspiracy theory about the nation's first black president, Barack Obama, is now promoting a baseless, disproven, and racist conspiracy theory about the nation's first black female vice presidential candidate, suggesting she might not really be an American citizen at all. Birtherism, it seems, is back. The whole thing started today with a widely mocked essay. It was picked up by conservative judicial activists, which was then retweeted by the Trump campaign's senior legal advisor. And just so we're clear, Kamala Harris, like Barack Obama, was born in the United States, which makes her a citizen. She was born in Oakland, California. And just a short time ago, President Trump tried to fan the flames even more.
Can you definitively say whether or not Kamala Harris is eligible, meets the legal requirements to run as vice president?
So I just heard that. I heard it today that she doesn't meet the requirements. And by the way, the lawyer that wrote that piece is a very highly qualified, very talented lawyer. I have no idea if that's right. I would have assumed the Democrats would have checked that out before she gets chosen to run for vice president. But that's a very serious
charge. That's
right. So there's like a whole bunch of stuff going on there. One, this idea, well, I would have thought the Democrats would have checked that out. Right. When she was running her own campaign in the primaries, no one ever thought to figure out if she was born in this country. And then now that she's been vetted by the Biden campaign, also no one ever thought to find out if she was born in this country. Just for the record, she was born in this country. Right? There was no reason to think at all that she was born in any other country. And in fact, even the article that they're talking about admits she was born in this country. The point they're trying to make is a legal argument that basically is nonsense and doesn't hold water, but they're trying to get people emotional about it. They're saying, well, her parents may not have been nationalized and become citizens at the point at which she was born. But that doesn't matter, right? You just read the Constitution. It's as plain as day, right? It's totally clear. It doesn't matter what the citizenship status of your parents are. If you were born in this country, you're an American citizen, right? So it's full on ridiculous. And the fact that he's using the same exact nonsense about birtherism again is also ridiculous. Okay. Now in here, he's going, oh, well, this lawyer, by the way, is a very good lawyer. Yeah. Cause it's his lawyer. He's just bragging about, everything with him. Like, oh, well, it's mine. It's the best. I have the best of everything. My lawyer is the best lawyer out there. That's what he's talking about, is his own lawyer. Well, if you're Trump's lawyer, right? If you're Trump's lawyer, you know what he wants you to do. So you just feed him that stuff. That's what all these people around Trump are doing. They know what he wants them to do, and they do it. Okay? So this is nonsense. This is ridiculous. No one should believe that in any way she is not a citizen. But it is kind of interesting. What do Barack Obama and Kamala Harris have in common that he attacks them with the same nonsense attack? I wonder if there's anything about those two individuals which is different than many other people that he doesn't go after with this kind of stuff. I wonder if there's something there, if there's maybe some reason why he thinks it's okay to go after these two individuals with that. If only there was some glaring difference. I don't know. Okay, now this is not a joke, right? We've got a couple of things that are funny. This is for real. Like you can actually purchase this thing. Okay, let's take a look.
You cannot defeat the storm. I am the storm, the great American grizzly. Introducing the original Trumpy Bear. Just find the secret zipper and pull out the American flag themed blanket. Then wrap yourself in the red, white, and blue for comfort and warmth. Show your patriotism and proudly display Trumpy on any American holiday.
God bless America and God bless Trumpy Bear.
Trumpy Bear loves to cruise with his brother.
I'm a former Marine, and I'm proud to have Trumpy Bear ride by my side.
When I ride with Trumpy Bear, he makes my golf game great again. Thank you, Trumpy Bear.
Simply style his trademark hair and place him in his favorite chair. Even the toughest guys will love Trumpy Bear. Coming, you cannot defeat the storm.
So, yeah, again, not a parody. That's actually a commercial. You can buy Trumpy Bear, and you can comb his hair, and you can make him hug the flag just like he does in real life. That's a thing you can do, and it's a serious thing. Okay. All right, this one, a little more interesting. So we had Trump, for some reason, just thought he would go after AOC and that it wasn't in any way going to come back to him. In case you haven't noticed, AOC is not afraid to say things. I don't know what he was thinking here.
Afraid of her because he is going to give not tax increases, massive tax increases to pay for AOC's plan. AOC was a poor student. I won't say where she went to school. It doesn't matter. This is not even a smart person, other than she's got a good line of stuff. I mean, she goes out and she yaps. These guys, and they're all afraid of her because if you notice, all of these progressives are beating the regular Democrats.
Okay, so she's according to Trump, she's not a smart person and she yaps. Okay, so let's see what her response was. All right, her response. Let's make a deal, Mr. President. You release your college transcript, I'll release mine, and we'll see who was the better student. Loser has to fund the post office. So yeah, here's where we're at, where remember, this came up, God, what was this? I don't know. So hard to tell time now. The last couple of years, everything's been such a dumpster fire. It's hard to keep track of time as it changes. But this came up where he would talk about how great he was at school and he was so smart and his grades were so great, but absolutely then he threatened the school, do not release my transcripts, do not let anyone know about my records, no one can know those records, just trust me, I did really, really great. And then we heard in Mary Trump's book that there appears to be credible evidence that Donald Trump paid an individual to take his, was it the SATs for him? He paid some really smart kid a bunch of money to go take his test for him. That got him into the Wharton School. And, you know, from the sounds of it, most of his schoolmates didn't really think much of him, and he didn't really come off as very bright there. She's calling him out. Yeah, let's release our transcripts. We'll let everyone look at it. So that's one of the things about calling someone else dumb or saying they're not smart, or and then he's saying she's not a smart person and she just yaps. You get called out on that kind of behavior, right? People come after you for saying that kind of stuff. So, and it doesn't look good when they do. Doesn't look good when they do. All right, what do we got here? Okay, all right. It's what they, over on Twitch, they'd refer to as candy. Let's kind of see what we got going down here. This, by the way, is, make sure I'm giving credit where credit's due. You can't see it. This is WTF Bra. Right, we can see him right here. So that's who made this video, right? This remix video.
Thank you so much for having us. You're over here, Mr. President. Thank you. Okay. Mr. President, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you taking the time, and we appreciate your commitment to answer our questions.
Sure. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I think it's under control. What you say? It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. We are doing everything we can. What testing does, it shows cases. It shows where there may be cases. You take a test, you have to send it to a laboratory. You test, we show cases. 55, 60 million people very soon. We're lower than the world.
Lower than the world?
You can test too much, you do know that.
Who says that?
Oh, just read the books. What books? Other countries test. You know when they test? They test when somebody's sick. That's when they test. Because we tested so many people, we show cases. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I think it's under control. What you say? It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. We are doing everything we can.
The figure I look at is death, and death is going up now.
Okay. Take a look at some of these charts. The United States is lowest in the world. Right here.
There's 1,000 a day.
Here's case death.
I'm talking about death as a proportion of population.
You can't do that. You know that. Death is way down from where it was. They are dying. That's true. But that doesn't mean we are doing everything we can. We're last, meaning we're first. The top one. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I think it's under control. What you say? It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. We are doing everything we can.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. All right, kind of bringing down the tension a little bit, bringing the mood up a little bit. Here we got. So, if you are, and you know, okay, try to go. All right, so try to go over this each time we talk about Kanye. So, the guy needs some help. I don't mean that in a nonchalant way. I wish someone would help the individual. He needs help right now. Right? But instead, he's on the world stage and sort of unraveling in front of the whole world, right? It sounds like his marriage is on the verge of collapse. There's this weird thing with his politics. A lot of people don't like what he's saying about things culturally. So someone needs to help him, you know, while there's still a Kanye left. With that said, he's trying to get himself on the ballot. He's interfering. I would consider it interference. That he's allowed to do it, right? Sometimes you're allowed to do a thing that you just really shouldn't do, right? Well, this is my right to do that. Okay, but we can come up with words that it makes you if you do these things. Kanye West running for president isn't really a good thing. Okay, he might have the right to do it, but it's not helpful. Kanye West, in a number of different states, turned in his signatures that he needed to get himself on the ballot. And it turns out that there were people like Mickey Mouse and Bernie Sanders and all sorts of names that were clearly not the right names. Okay, clearly they were just people screwing around. And it wasn't a handful of names. It's not like 5. So usually what happens, like in a couple states, he had to turn in about 2,500 signatures. So they turned in like, I think in one state they turned in like 3,200 or something like that. And because then when they go through and they get rid of the Mickey Mouses and the Bernie Sanders and stuff like that, because Bernie Sanders was not registered in these states. Once they cross those out, you still have to have 2,500. So if you turn in 2,500, they're going to end up finding some that are false and you're going to fall short. It was like a huge percentage of the signatures that were turned in, totally false, right? So he didn't meet the threshold to be able to be on the ballots in those states. And his lawyers, being brilliant lawyers, have come up with a brilliant strategy, right? So I suspect this is a case of people saying, hey, Kanye pays me a lot of money. I'll go through and make these arguments if he's going to keep paying me this kind of money. Their argument is prove Mickey Mouse did not sign Kanye West's ballot petition. Prove it. Prove it. Prove that Mickey Mouse doesn't live in Pennsylvania or, whatever state this was in. Wisconsin. Prove that Mickey Mouse didn't sign up for Kanye. That's their legal argument. That's what they're going with. That's what they're sticking with. Okay. All right. We went after Trump for a little bit. Now we're going to go after Biden and Kamala. So, fact check. Joe Biden has advocated cutting Social Security for 40 years. I don't get why either one of these candidates was picked. I don't understand it at all. In an era where more and more people are leaning progressive, we somehow have picked someone who is barely even a Democrat, barely even in the center, let alone on the left, actually representing people in this country right now. All right, at least the people on the Democrat Party. I mean, they're saying up to 40% of the party is currently progressive, and most people are still well to the left of Joe Biden. He has stated a number of times in the past that he is willing to cut Social Security, and we are going to see some very, very hard times in the next few years financially, keeping this country going and digging ourselves out of the economic hole that the coronavirus has put us in, and our managing of the coronavirus has put us in. And just know that Joe Biden has a long history of saying, yeah, we'll go after Social Security. So those of you who are 10, 15 years out from getting your Social Security, that should be a big concern for you. Okay, that should worry you because he's willing to cut it. And the truth is, and this is the government's own accounting of this, in the early to mid 2030s, there are going to have to be cuts to Social Security automatically. Like they're going to happen anyways, where you go to collect your Social Security and all of a sudden you're getting 75% of what you were expected. Those are going to kick in because we haven't been properly funding the Social Security so far. So unless we do something, people are going to actually see cuts anyways. Now, on top of that, Joe Biden has historically been willing to make even deeper cuts. So we'll see. We'll see. He has said that he won't be cutting Social Security now, this time. But for someone for decades who said they would, it's a little hard to know what to expect. It's a little hard to know what to think, right? So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Oh, whoops. This was supposed to be a little bit earlier. So back to this. Kanye West says he and Jared Kushner speak almost daily. Of course they do, right? Of course they do. Yeah, Plinky Plonk. Suge Knight's not around anymore, right? Whatever happened to him? I don't know what happened to him at this point. He's gone, right? So Kanye and Jared Kushner speak almost daily because, of course, most people have figured this out, that Kanye is really operating in conjunction with the Trump campaign. That's been pretty clear for a while. Yeah, good to see you, Plinky Plonk. Glad you're here. Glad you're checking out the stream here. So, Yeah, so, a lot of people are going, oh, well, Kanye's running and that's going to siphon off votes from Biden. You did? Okay. Okay. What did he have to say, right? What did you guys talk about when you met up with him last week, Plinky Plonk? So it's pretty clear that Kanye West is working in conjunction with the Trump candidacy because they seem to think that Kanye West is going to be siphoning off votes from Biden, but I don't think so. I think it's pretty clear. Kanye's walking around with his red hat on. I think it's pretty clear what he stands for and what he's about. And I think that this time around, voters are pretty knowledgeable about what's going on, right? So we'll see. Who, West said vote for Biden? Last I heard, like he's been a pretty ardent Trump fan for a while. I think at some point I think I might know what you're referring to. At some point, he was being accused of someone who's going to basically cost Biden the election. And he came out and he was kind of saying, well, vote for who you think you need to vote for. But, right. So I do remember, I do recall what you're referring to. So the whole thing is just kind of ridiculous. Kanye shouldn't really be in there in the first place, but we'll see how all that pans out. All right, then we got Swalwell coming out. So, Representative Eric Swalwell, I don't say this lightly. When we escape this Trump hell, America needs a presidential crimes commission. It should be made up of independent prosecutors who look at those who enabled a corrupt president. Example number 1, sabotaging the mail to win an election. Absolutely. In fact, I think we've reached a point in this country where there should always be a presidential crimes commission, no matter who's in office, right? And they shouldn't. One of the weaknesses that we've seen while Trump has been in office is that he just fires people who might find information against him. He's fired a number of inspectors general. Remember, the inspectors general are assigned to these departments to make sure that no corruption is happening in those departments. Trump just fires them. Right? There's been 5 or 6 major inspector generals being fired in those cases. And it's highly inappropriate, right? So all the people that are supposed to be investigating what's right and what's wrong have now been removed, which means you just get to do whatever you want. We need a presidential crimes commission. We need it permanently part of this country, and it can't be affected by the president. So that's what he's talking about, independent prosecutors, so that it's not someone that Trump picks and says, okay, I'm going to put this person in charge of the presidential crimes commission. And then, he just puts one of his donors in place like he does for all of these other departments. It needs to be a legitimate thing. And I'm of the opinion that, if Trump and Barr and DeJoy, right, the guy who's running the post office, Bill Barr running the Department of Justice, and of course we all know who Trump is. If those 3 individuals don't end up doing time, convicted of crimes and doing time, it's going to show you how complicit the Democratic Party is as well, right? The Republicans have been very complicit in this entire presidency by allowing the president to get away with the stuff he's getting away with. If we don't assign a presidential crimes commission and actually show the country and history, you can't act like this, then what's going to happen is it's going to show that the Democrats are complicit as well. The Democrats are complicit as well there. And so we need to not do that. We need to move that. Progressives didn't want Harris for VP, but they're backing her anyways. Right, because, if your house is on fire and someone hands you, a hose that doesn't work or a hose that's just barely working, you're going to use the hose that's barely working and try to put the fire out, right? So, what choice is there really? Not a whole lot of choice. I'm very disappointed that I'm going to end up casting a vote for Biden-Harris, but that's where we're at, right? That's where we're going to be. So we should remember then, right? We need to get rid of this team mentality in politics, this idea that the person I voted for can do no wrong and the person I voted against is pure evil and can do nothing right. In this case, we might actually be seeing a case where the person on the other side actually is fairly dangerous and evil. But what I want to point out is that even the people that we're going to vote for, or I'm going to vote for, still not the greatest, right? Still not outstanding individuals.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race.
Yeah, because it's hilarious, right, Kamala? So we are in this is what I don't get, and I thought this was going to do her in, right? I'm amazed we got to this point. We are at a time in our country where we literally have protests in the streets about how police and our justice system operate, and she's laughing about putting parents in jail for their kids' schooling, right? That she thinks that's funny, right? That's who we're dealing with. That's who we've got here. Actually, let's skip this one. I didn't have a time to watch that one and vet it that it makes sense. And here's Brianna Greyjoy kind of talking about it. We are in the midst of the largest protest movement in American history, the subject of which is excessive policing, and the Democratic Party chose a top cop and the author of the Joe Biden crime bill to save us from Trump. How did either one of these people get chosen? How did we choose Biden? How was that a choice that the Americans made? I know there was a concerted effort to stop Bernie and to slow him down. I get it, but really, this is what we came up with. And then, of course, he picks someone who her own past is held down by what she did with who she prosecuted and how she, went after harsh sentences on people. This is what we have. Unbelievable. But Brianna Greyjoy kind of hits it on the head here. She hits the nail on the head. Let's see. How are we doing on time? Let's skip that one. Okay, so giving people credit where credit is due. Kamala Harris says she would eliminate the filibuster to pass the Green New Deal. The filibuster's time has come and gone. We need to eliminate the filibuster. It is doing more harm than good. And if you look into the history of the filibuster, it was actually a weird thing that occurred because of some weird bylaws along the way. It's not like something that was originally there from the very beginning. We picked it up along the way, and it needs to be stopped because there is one party that is all about stopping any kind of progress. We can see that, right? Mitch McConnell, that's all he does is stop progress. We don't need things that stop progress. We need things that allow us to create progress, to move forward with things. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So in this case, Kamala Harris says she would eliminate the filibuster to pass the Green New Deal. I don't even care about that. I mean, the Green New Deal is good. Just get rid of the filibuster anyways. You don't have to do it to get rid of the Green New Deal. Just get rid of the filibuster in general. Green New Deal or not. Just get rid of it. Okay. But she says she'll do it, so that's good. That's good. She's going to do that. All right. Had a video on this the other day. Some of you saw it. Uber CEO says its service will probably shut down temporarily in California if it's forced to classify its drivers as employees. So it kind of makes sense. Let's just imagine for a minute if all of a sudden the people who drive for Uber just didn't show up to work that day. There's no company left. That's the whole company. That's everything. That's all it is the drivers, right? So yeah, they're employees. They should be classified as employees. Okay, so it makes a big difference. This isn't like a note of, well, sometimes you work a place, they call you like family members or team members. This is like the legal definition of whether they fit employees or not, because it depends, like in California, do you have to pay a minimum wage, right? I know a lot of times people go, well, minimum wage is minimum wage. Doesn't everyone make minimum wage? Nope. There are certain types of ways where you can get away with paying people minimum wage. For instance, there are states where if you're a tipped employee, all of a sudden your rate is like $3 an hour. right? Because they go, well, you're making tips on top of that, right? But the tips that you make are supposed to be on top of what you make. They aren't supposed to make up the whole pay, so then your employer doesn't have to pay you as much, right? It's a ridiculous way of doing things, and that's exactly what Uber is trying to do here. They are trying to take advantage of their employees to make the business work. Well, if your business only works when you don't pay your employees what they deserve, then your business shouldn't make it. Right? That's what we're always hearing about. And, capitalism is supposed to be about the best idea making it. Well, okay. Apparently your business model doesn't work when you take care of your employees. Your business model sucks and your business should fail. Deserves to fail. All right. Let's tone it down a little bit. I'm getting a little wound up. It's warm in here. Blood going. Let's tone things down a little bit. Let's see what we got. Having a hard time. All right. Cat and dogs being friends. That's always cute, right? Who doesn't like seeing a cat and a dog getting along? That's always good. Always good to go. All right. So let's close with this story today. Oops. No good. Let me grab the right thing here. Let's close with this. Barr argues Black Lives Matter protesters can't sue him over tear gas photo op incident because of qualified immunity. Okay. So really what this is the best case, the example that I've heard for getting rid of qualified immunity. So let's remember what qualified immunity is. So there is this weird law that the Supreme Court upheld that we've been following in this country for years now, which says that there are only certain things that a cop can do that they can get in trouble for. And there's like a list. It was the things that they had been found guilty of in court before a certain date. So if they come up with a new creative thing that screws people over, you can't go after them because qualified immunity protects them from this. So Barr here, remember what happened? There were protesters in front of the White House. Trump wanted a photo op in front of the church where he went over and he held that book up, and it wasn't even a good photo in the first place. They tear gassed everyone to move him out so that he could go do that. He's saying, well, you can't come after me because of qualified immunity. Right, so this is a perfect example of why people are in the streets. One of the reasons people are in the streets is because of qualified immunity. They want to get rid of qualified immunity. They want to do away with it. And this is exactly why we should do away with it. This guy right here with that, is that a smile? It's hard to tell with him. I don't know what he's doing with his expressions half the time. You can't tell if he's happy or sad. But yeah, we need to get rid of qualified immunity. It's time. The time has come. The time has come. People are in the streets over, and that's not the only reason they're in the streets. There's a big, long list of the way our Department of Justice operates incorrectly and the way our state and local police operate incorrectly in ways that need to be changed so that we're serving the people and not the other way around. This is a perfect example. All right. So with that, we're going to close. Thanks for checking out the stream. Another week or two here, I'll have an air conditioner in here. Should be quite a bit cooler. Thanks for checking out the stream. I'm streaming regularly on Twitch. Twitch is set up a little better for streaming. I'll have to say, a little easier to interact with people. So feel free to head on over there. Follow me on Twitch, and then when I'm streaming over there, you can jump in, and a little bit more back and forth when we get a few people in the stream. It's a little bit easier to interact over there, and there's a little bit more fun stuff to make the interaction kind of interesting. So head on over there, check it out. Otherwise, you'll see my videos as they pop up throughout the week, and enjoy the weekend, and we will see you later.